more. And
let's
lock
lock
in.
bags.
All right.
All right. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, we'd like to give all praise and glory to
Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem, Rakakwadash.
Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, taught us the truth. And salutations to the hopeful elect. That's around the four corners of the globe. And the elect begins with the 144,000. Yahweh, with the word ignorantly calls God and Jehovah. Bahashem is in the name. Yahweh Shai, with the word ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. The Rakakwadash is the Holy Spirit. With the brothers of the Great Millstone Chicago camp. I'm Brother Iwami, joined with
the brother Asahar,
the brother Yamaiba,
brother Abadi.
Come back at you, brothers and sisters at Household of Faith of the Hopeful Right Select with another lesson. And Lord, and we hope this lesson be edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai.
That's right.
Once again, we hope this lesson is edifying. As you can see the title, an overview of Daniel's the 7th chapter, man. It's a lot of history, contained in Daniel's the 7th chapter, man. Hey, really talking about the four major empires here on earth, man. And also, we're just gonna jump into it, man. Just break it down, man. The first few verses. But you know what? You on that Daniel's the 7th chapter, brother? All right, you can go ahead and read it for me, Abaya.
So this is Daniel 7:1, and again, just to say, these four beasts are the four kingdoms, the four major kingdoms that would rule until Yahweh's kingdom.
Yeah.
So this is a big part of history. This is a very, very important, breakdown that our elders taught us at JMS. So it says, Daniel 7:1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters.
Right. So the Most High giving Daniel the dream ultimately of what he's about to see, man, which is what those four major empires, as the brother Ibaya was just talking about, and Belshazzar being the final king of Babylon, man.
Verse 2, Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea.
Right, the four winds represent north, east, south, and west, and that great sea represent the Mediterranean Sea.
Verse 3, and four beasts, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another.
And right, so when Daniel ultimately had this vision, this dream, this vision, he ultimately literally seen, four great beasts, but they ultimately represented something. You can read that part again.
Daniel 7:3, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another.
Mm-hmm.
The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings.
Right, ultimately represent the Assyrian Empire. You got that that picture of the griffin. Representing the Assyrian Empire, man.
And they use that image of a lion and an eagle, together in one. So it says, which it also represents power.
Mm-hmm.
A lion and an eagle, because like we had said earlier, the brother had said the lion is like the king of the land animals, and then the eagle is the highest flying bird. So it says, and I beheld until the wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth.
Right. So ultimately, you had the Babylonian Empire come into power, man. And I got a little history, just based off that fact, man. Nebuchadnezzar being the first king, of Babylon, man. You had Babylon ultimately, take down Assyria. You can read that part again, how I talked about it being plucked.
Daniel 7:4. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. So the Assyrians.
Mm-hmm.
I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth.
Right, talking about the Babylonian Empire, man. And it was plucked. And just a little history on that, you had Nebuchadnezzar's father. I'm going to just read it a little bit. Nabopolassar and his son Nebuchadnezzar, which became the first official king of Babylon, the Neo-Babylonian Empire. It says Nabopolassar, which is Nebuchadnezzar's father, and his sons Nabopolassar and his son Nebuchadnezzar, along with the Medes, led the coalition that destroyed the Assyrian Empire. Nabopolassar, which was Nebuchadnezzar's father, Nabopolassar, as the king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, formed the alliance with the Medes, and together they sacked the Assyrian cities of Ashur in 614 BC, and the capital city of Nineveh in 612 BC, ending the Assyrian Empire. Nebuchadnezzar fought alongside his father, and after Nabopolassar's death, went to secure control of the region and expanded the Babylonian Empire. So ultimately, he exceeded his father, ultimately, Nebuchadnezzar becoming the first official king of Babylon, ultimately taking down the Assyrian Empire, man. That's why it says its wings were plucked, because ultimately Babylon ultimately took down the Assyrian Empire, man.
But they were also the same people.
Yeah, the Assyrians, yeah.
Which is why they sometimes refer to it as the Assyro-Babylonian Empire. So it says, I beheld till the wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand upon the feet as a man,
right.
And a man's heart was given to it.
Right, talking about Nebuchadnezzar, man. Because he was the first official king of Babylon,
Verse 5, and behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear.
Right, and that bear, the second beast, that bear represents the Medo-Persian Empire. Real quick, you can hold this on deck, either Jeremiah or Asai. Just hold it on deck. Give me Daniel's the 5th chapter, last few verses, and just hold it on deck.
I got you.
Don't read it yet, but just hold it on deck.
Okay, so this is back in Daniel 7, and we're at verse 5. And behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear.
Right, represent that second beast. That bear represents the Medo-Persian Empire.
And it had raised up itself on one side.
Right, because ultimately you had the Persians that was greater than the Medes, man. It was a joint rulership. You had the Medes, ultimately, led by Darius the Mede, that ultimately took down Babylon. And you had the Persians, ultimately, let me read that part again.
It says, and it raised up itself on one side.
Right, so the Persians was greater than the Medes, man. Cyrus, what's that? Cyrus the Great,
It says, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh.
And those 3 ribs are Babylon, Egypt, and Lydia, the 3 strongholds that ultimately the Persian Medes ultimately took over, man. Every brother got that Daniel the 5th chapter? Real quick.
Because the Medo-Persians came from the east and they conquered north, west, and south. That's that arise and devour much flesh. They devour. But this is how they went down. This is how the Babylonians went down. This is how the Medo-Persians took them over, which is what we're about to read in Daniel 5.
You can start at Daniel 5, and let me see. We get to the point. Start at verse 26. No, start at verse 24.
Daniel 5 and verse 24. Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written, and this is the writing that was written, Mene, Tekel, Upharsin. This is the interpretation of the thing, Mene, Yahweh hath numbered thy kingdom and finished it.
Right, so ultimately the signs, man, the signs were written that ultimately, the Babylonian Empire was coming to an end. Who was that king, man? Belshazzar. As we read that, what's that? Daniel's the top of Daniel's the 7th chapter. Belshazzar was the last king of Babylon.
And this is where that saying comes from. Oh, we see the writing on the wall.
Yeah, the writing on the wall.
It's over with. But this was the Babylonians. The final king, like the brother said, they were having a feast.
Yeah,
they were drunk.
It was a hostile takeover. It wasn't a battle. So ultimately, you had. Let me see. Can I find some history on that real quick? But you got it, brother.
So yeah, they were having a feast when they saw the handwriting on the wall, basically letting them know that it's finished, like the scripture's going to say, But yeah, it wasn't much war to take it over. It was just like a transition of power. They slayed the Babylonian elites and they took it over.
Yep. It was a hostile takeover, as the brother said. But you can continue on that so I can find this.
Daniel 5 and 27. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and are found wanting. Paris, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians.
The Medes and the Persians.
It's given to the Medes and the Persians, right? Because ultimately Darius the Mede ultimately took, over the Babylonian Empire, man. Ultimately end up taking everything, that they had, ultimately slaying Belshazzar, man.
But hit verse 32 real quick.
Just
Yeah, it's the verse.
icon. Verse 30. In that night was Belshazzar, the king of the Chaldeans, slain.
Yep.
And Darius the Median took the kingdom, being about 62 years old.
What's that? 62. Yeah, he was about 62 years old. You know, and ultimately,
Darius the Median.
yeah, Darius the Mede, he was 62 years old, man, when ultimately he took over the Babylonian Empire. But going back to that Daniel 7, man, ultimately, you know, who you had at the time, you had Persia, you know, ultimately lifting himself on one side, it was greater than the Medes. You know, it was a joint rulership. You had Darius the Mede ultimately taking over Babylon, and you had Cyrus the Great ultimately ruling the side of Persia, man. You know?
So it says, now we're on verse 6, Daniel 7 and 6. And after this, I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard.
Right, that leopard, talking about the third beast, man, represents the Grecian Empire, ultimately representing Alexander the Great.
Let's get first Maccabees.
Yeah, first Maccabees. And Bible shot, I grab Daniel's 8.
Get first Maccabees. God, so again, Daniel 7 and 6, and this is the third beast now, which is the Greeks. And it says, after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl, and the beast had also 4 heads.
Right. Yep, those generals, man. Alexander had 4 generals. He had more, but he had 4 notable generals, man. Can you read that part again? And I'm gonna list the generals off.
God, it says, Daniel 7 and 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard.
Right, where it represents the Grecian Empire, Alexander the Great.
It says, which had upon the back of it 4 wings as a fowl, and the beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it.
Right. The 4 heads represents Alexander's generals. And that you can grab that first Maccabees 1 and 1.
All right, come on. First Maccabees 1 and 1. And after it happened, after that, Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of the Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of Persians and Medes.
And right, this particular Darius was the last king of the Medo-Persian Empire that ultimately Alexander the Great ultimately had slew, man. To ultimately to take that kingdom over, you know.
And this first Maccabees is going into the history on that third beast and on Alexander.
Had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece.
Right, the first over Greece, man. And it talks about ultimately that in Daniel the 8th chapter, which we're going to grab in a second. Okay. You know, hold that on deck, brother. But you got it.
Verse 2: and made many wars and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth and took spoils of many nations.
Right, because you got to understand, this is the first rule of the Edomites, the first major rule of the Edomites, man. The Grecian Empire started with Alexander the Great, man. You got to understand, hey, the Edomites were blessed with the sword, so that's why ultimately they was able to do the things that they were doing. Ultimately started with Alexander the Great. Quickly, exactly right. It's gonna mention it. Yep.
Leopard.
Insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up.
Right, because ultimately he was conquering, man. He did it swiftly. Alexander the Great conquered, and he did it swiftly, man. He did it well over the course of 12 years, man? You know?
The leopard.
Yep. And what was the first he ultimately took down, man? Darius, the last king of the Medo-Persian Empire. You know, what was that? Darius the third, if I'm not mistaken? Yep.
Verse 4: and he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him.
Right. So ultimately, you know, as when the Grecian Empire was taking over these different countries, these different states, they ultimately became tributaries unto Greece, man. You know, and we're gonna go more into that as we get into the 4 beasts. But you got it, brother.
Verse 5: and after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die.
Right, so it took Alexander 12 years to conquer everything, because ultimately Greece was ruling the known world at that time, man. You know, Greece had everything under control. After what, you know, Alexander slew Darius, I believe it was Darius the third. You know,
it says that in dominion was given to it.
Yep.
Verse 6. Wherefore he called his servants such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive.
Right, talking about Alexander's generals, man. And his 4 generals are Ptolemy, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Cassander. That he had more generals, but that was his 4 notable generals, man. You know, that ultimately what you can read about that. It's another lesson for another day. Daniel's the 11th chapter, man. You know, talking about the 6 Syrian wars, man. You know, Alexander's generals and their descendants that came after them. But Alexander's 4 notable generals were what? Ptolemy, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Cassander. You know,
And that's the 4 heads of the beast.
yep.
Verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves.
Right, so they began to rule, man. So when Alexander ultimately died after that 12 years of conquering everything, his generals ultimately took over his territory. You know, ultimately they had these different lands under their control, man. They put crowns upon their heads. You know,
Continuing in verse 9. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth.
right? Because this was the beginning of the Edomite rule, man. You know, wickedness was multiplied on the earth, as the scriptures say, man. You know, because what? You know, Esau Edom is the wicked. You know, you got 3 classifications, man. You got the sons of God, you got the sons of men, you got the sons of the wicked, man. You know, but you can get that Daniel's 8 outside. Let me see where you can actually start at.
And to add to that,
Because it actually, you know, follows up everything we were just talking about.
he's the undisputed champion. That's what
Start at Daniel's 8. Actually, we go read verse 21, then we go jump back up. Read Daniel's 8 and 21.
All right, Daniel 8 and 21 reads, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia.
Right, going back to that the leper we was talking about in Daniel's the 7th chapter, man. You know, just to make that point real quick.
And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king.
Right, so Alexander the Great was the first over Greece. You know, he was the first king over Greece. So you can jump up to verse 1. We're going to read down.
All right. Daniel 8 and 1 reads, in the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me, Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass, when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam. And I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Verse 3, then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns.
And that 2 horns, you know, represents the Persian Medes. You had the Persian, you had the Medes, you know, the Medo-Persian Empire.
And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other.
Right, as we read in that Daniel the 7th
Lifted
chapter, you
himself
know,
up
lifted himself up on one side. So the
Man.
Persians was greater than the Medes, man.
God. And the higher came up last. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him.
So ultimately, the Medo-Persian Empire was conquered, man. What they had over 170 provinces, you know, under their control, man. So ultimately, everywhere that the Persian Medes ultimately went, they were conquering, man. What you got, brother?
Neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. And as I was considering, behold, and he
go
right, came.
You know, just to stop you real quick, brother. Hey, that he-go is what we read in verse what was that, verse 21. That he-go is talking about the king of Grecia, which is Alexander the Great. You know, that ultimately, you know, end up rising up. But you got it, brother. You can keep reading.
And he-go came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground, and the goat had 2 notable horns between his eyes.
Because ultimately it talks about it, man. Hey, when Alexander, it took Alexander, 12 years to ultimately conquer everything, man?
That's that not touch the ground.
Yep.
Because it moves so so
he
fast.
moved swiftly.
And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes, and he came to the ram that had two horns,
Right. So ultimately, Alexander the Great came up against the Medo-Persian Empire.
which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power.
Because it talks about in that first Maccabees how ultimately Alexander the Great slayed Darius, and ultimately he took the kingdom away from Darius, But you got it out.
And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his two horns.
So this is Alexander the Great taking down the Medo-Persian Empire.
And there was no power in the ram to stand before him.
Because you got to understand, also, it was the time for the Medo-Persian Empire to go down, man.
Right.
Because ultimately, the Most High Yahweh was with, Alexander the Great to ultimately what to fulfill prophecy, man. So this ultimately had to happen. The Lord was with Alexander the Great, so ultimately for prophecy to be fulfilled, man. And this is the reign of the third beast, which is the Grecian Empire.
And if you go off the movie, how.
And I just noticed that, Brother Salakia, hey, it says even notable what? Alexander the Great within his brother's Bible. You can't make it up.
And going with the movie, once he conquered, again, you start to say, how was this man able to do what he does with the lifestyle he leads? Because Hollywood showed there's a lot of sword fighting going on there.
Yeah.
So, again, the Lord said, I'll put the weakest of men over you as your punishment.
I got a quick precept.
Brother.
This Psalm 75 and 6. For promotion cometh neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south, but the Most High God is judge. He putteth down one and setteth up another.
Yep. And for this man to have conquered and take it as far as he could, again, the Lord put judgment on him to now have him removed, to have these four generals fill destiny.
It's actually go actually talk about that in that
There you
Daniel's
go.
8, just to re-summarize everything, but you can continue in that Daniel's 8.
All right, that was Daniel's 8 and 8. Yeah. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And for it came up four notable ones towards the four winds of heaven.
Because ultimately, as we read in that first Maccabees, when Alexander ultimately, he conquered for about 12 years, and then he ultimately died, and who ultimately stood up in his place is four generals, man. Read that last part of that verse again.
And for it came up four notable ones towards the four winds of heaven.
Right, Alexander's generals, man. As I had quoted them, Ptolemy, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Cassander, man. Those were his four notable generals. He had more, but those was his four notable generals that ultimately was a part of prophecy. You had something to add, brother?
Yeah, I was just going to read the verse 6.
Yeah, Bible show.
Daniel 7 and 6. So everything we just read was going into more history on the Greeks taking down the Medo-Persians. And it says, and after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl. And the beast had also four heads, and dominion was given unto it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ultimately Alexander's four generals began to reign in his stead, man. As we read in that first Maccabees, the first chapter.
But and Daniel 8.
Daniel's 8, yeah. Hey, it's actually some more to that Daniel's 8 also. Okay. Keep reading, brother.
Verse 9, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great, towards the south, and towards the east, and towards the pleasant land.
Actually, we go come back to that, because that's actually talking about that Daniel's 8. That's talking about Antiochus Epiphanes, Right. But actually, that was it for that that Daniel's 8. That. Because we're going to get into this little horn in Daniel 7, which is going to be different from this Daniel's 8, which is Antiochus Epiphanes. But we can go back to that Daniel 7 chapter. That was pretty much in on the Daniel's 8.
There's Daniel 7 and 7. After this, I saw in the night visions, and beheld a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly. And it had great iron teeth.
Right. So ultimately, what that fourth beast is the Roman Empire. The ancient Roman Empire. You got it all.
It says, and the great iron teeth.
Right, represents, because ultimately Rome was introducing iron within its military, man. It also represents its military might, because nobody can stand against Rome.
That's right.
It says right here, it devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it.
Right. So just to get that real quick, Jeremiah, but grab First Maccabees 8, start at verse 1.
First Maccabees verse.
Before
8.
you actually read that, brother, read that again, I buy you. Read the whole verse again.
Daniel 7:7, and after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast,
Which is the Roman Empire.
dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth.
Because ultimately Rome introduced iron within its military, which made its military a mighty.
It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it.
Right, because ultimately Rome was conquering everything it came across, man. It conquered the known world at that time.
And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it.
All right, yeah, it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. Now, grab that First Maccabees 8 and 1. You go read First Maccabees 8 and verse 1. You go jump down to verse 13.
First Maccabees verse 8, and his servants bear rule every one in his place.
No, First Maccabees 8 and 1.
Chapter 8.
Oh, Salaki, bro. Salaki.
It's all good.
First Maccabees 8 and 1.
You go read verse 1, you go jump down to verse 13.
All right, First Maccabees 8 and 1. Now Judas had heard of the fame of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of amity with all that came unto them.
Right, verse 1 being the point. The Romans, they were valiant men, man. You know, they ultimately had a strong military, and ultimately, how was it diverse? Jump down to verse, let me see. Jump down to, let me see.
With the Senate house?
Yeah, verse 15.
Verse 15. Moreover, how they had made for them.
14.
14.
Come. Verse 14. Yet for all this, none of them wore a crown or was clothed in purple, to be magnified thereby.
Right, because ultimately Rome didn't have a straight king, just like kingdoms before it, man. Because kingdoms before Rome, they ultimately had a king, and then ultimately when the kings had sons, they was heirs to the throne. But Rome was not set up like that. You continue on that verse, brother.
Verse 15. Moreover, how they had made for themselves a senate house.
Right, they made themselves a senate house, man, just like America today. Because ultimately, what made Rome diverse? Ultimately, how Rome has Caesars. Going back to the ancient Rome had Caesars. America has presidents. Which they elected in office. They didn't have exact kings like kingdoms before, like Babylon, like the Medo-Persian Empire, for example. But you got it, brother.
Verse 15. Moreover, how they had made for themselves a senate house. 16, and that they committed their government to one man every year, who ruled over all their country, and all were obedient to that one, and there was neither envy nor emulation among them. In consideration of these things, Judas chose Ephraim, the son of John.
That was pretty much it. Read that last verse again, though.
16 or 17.
Read 16 again.
And that they committed their government to one man every year.
Right. So ultimately, just how presidents, for example, every 4 years, the people elect, a person or a president in a seat,
Right.
just like Rome did back then. Ultimately, they put a Caesar within that seat, man, to ultimately to rule over the people. They were subject to that one.
And then they had a Senate house.
Yep.
Like we still have America still has a Senate house.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that verse too, because ultimately America is the Roman Empire coming back, man.
Continuing at 16, who ruled over all their country, and that all were obedient to that one, and that there was neither envy nor emulation among them.
Yeah, that was pretty much the point, man. Hey, Rome didn't have a king like past kingdoms before, man. They ultimately had a Caesar, which would be a president today, in America's terms, because America and Rome is one and the same. But you got it. You go back to that Daniel 7.
And that was that was what made it diverse from the other beasts before it, the other kingdoms before it.
Yeah.
And it says again, Daniel 7:7. After this, I beheld in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns.
And right, the 10 horns is the vassal states that Rome had. This is how America has, what's that? The European Union countries that serve under them, NATO and the EU. Ultimately Rome had ultimately what? Vassal states, man.
Right.
And those 10 horns back then, the vassal states that ultimately Rome was ultimately ruling over, you had the Anglo-Saxons, you had the Franks, the Alemannis, the Lombards, the Suevi, the Burgundians, the Ostrogoths, the Visigoths, the Heruli, and the Vandals. Those were the vassal states that ultimately Rome was ultimately ruling over, man. You know how ultimately America got these smaller countries, they're ruling over, man. Hey, Rome had the same thing back then,
And just another way we know this is talking about Rome, because there's the book of Revelation also speaks about the beast having 10 horns.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. So this the Roman Empire, that fourth beast.
Yep.
It says, verse 8, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn.
Right, that little horn is talking about America, man. And this is the second leg of the Roman Empire, man. Ultimately being revitalized. We can actually hold those scriptures on day. Also, I grabbed that Revelation 13, deadly wound healed, and grab that Malachi. Actually, you already in Malachi.
Yeah.
Grab a whole Malachi 1 and 4 on that.
Get Daniel 2, right?
Yeah.
The feet. And...
Yeah, yep. Get Daniel 2. And also get Revelation 13. Deadly wound was healed.
Daniel 2. You want that right now?
No, let's get the Revelation first.
Yeah, get the Revelation. Deadly wound was healed.
Okay, I got you.
This is Revelation 13 and 11. Revelation 13:11. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon.
Right, that's that 2-party system. But hold on, in that Revelations for that Revelations 13.
It's the next verse.
Oh, this kind of. I was thinking of more
And
of
you were thinking Revelation 20?
that too. Hold that on deck. That's what I was thinking of.
Let's get this verse 12. It says,
I was thinking about verse 3 in that Revelations 13.
oh, Salakia.
Nah, we got it. Revelations 3,
20.
verse 3.
This is
You can jump down after that.
jump back up.
Yeah, jump up there and jump down to what you was going to get.
Okay. Revelation 3
13.
and 3.
Yep.
And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed.
Mm-hmm.
And all the world wondered after the beast.
Right, so and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. Right, the ancient Roman Empire ultimately going down because what you had Jake ruling for that period of 1,000 years that ultimately took ancient Rome out of power, man. You ultimately had Jake ruling for that 1,000-year period, and Esau Edom was under subjugation under the Israelites, man.
Mm-hmm.
You continue on that up.
Or do you want to get that 1,000 here?
Yeah, bubble shot.
Revelation chapter 20, verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand.
Right, that bottomless pit being Europe.
And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years.
Esau, the Edomites. Hey, also as a side note, tying Esau Edom back to the serpent in the garden. So ultimately, Esau Edom was under Jake's rule for that 1,000-year period, which we know to be what the world will call the Dark Ages.
Verse 3, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season.
Right, be loosed a little season. And going back to that Daniel 7, man, that little horn, ultimately being what? America. Esau Edom come back into his power seat, man. Which is the second leg of the Roman Empire. Did you ever finish that Revelation 13?
Yeah, it's right here. This is Revelation 13 and 12. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed.
Right. The Roman Empire ultimately coming back into power in the form of America, which is that little horn we read in Daniel's the 7th chapter, man.
That's right.
You know?
That's right.
And-
America is the second leg of the Roman Empire. It's the continuation of the fourth beast. You know?
And also the Renaissance period was,
You got it right here, Malachi 1:4. You can read it real
Malachi
quick.
1:4 reads, "Whereas Edom saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, they shall build, but I will throw down."
And right, what was the reformation of the Roman Empire, man? During the Renaissance, which means rebirth. Esau Edom coming back into power, you know, ultimately gaining power again, you know, ultimately building America. America being that little horn, you know, the second leg of the Roman Empire.
and the Renaissance period was when they glorified Rome once again, and
Yep.
they set themselves up as if
Mm-hmm.
the so-called white man was the standard and the image of everything, of beauty, of, well, first and foremost, of taking the image of Yahweh Shai and of the saints and of the
Yep.
angels, right? So that's causing the earth to what? To worship the
The image of
the beast,
image of
the
beast.
Rome.
Yep. Back in that Daniel 7, we had hit up all those points. You got to jump down in that Revelation 13, right?
Yeah, that was the point.
Yeah, come on. All right, so let's go back to that Daniel 7.
Want me to finish this?
That was pretty much the point.
Okay, all right.
Daniel 7:9, or verse 8.
Yeah, continue verse 8. We got to break down a little the 3,
Mm-hmm.
I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn,
which is America, the second leg of the Roman Empire, which is Babylon the Great, which is America.
before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots.
Right, where the 3 of the first ones plucked up by the roots, right? You had the British, you had the Spanish, you had the French, you had the Revolutionary War,
Mhm.
you know, the British, you had the French American War, you had the Spanish American War,
Which is ultimately how they expanded to take over the whole continent.
right? Because America started off as 13 colonies,
Right.
you know, and ultimately over time, you know, through these wars, you know, the Revolutionary War, the French American War, the Spanish American War, ultimately America ended up seizing these different lands over time, man.
So that was that little horn plucking up the
Mhm.
3. It says, and behold, in this horn,
The Louisiana Purchase,
right, the Louisiana Purchase gave them all that territory in the middle.
Yep.
It says, yeah, and I beheld, and behold, in this horn were the eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things.
Right, mouth speaking great things. That's what America as a whole does, man. Just look at Donald Trump for an example, man. He speak great things, man. He always up the American military. You know, America always glorifies its military, how, you know, up top they are above all these other nations, man.
What do they always say? Thank you for making this the greatest country
Yep.
on earth. This is the greatest country on earth.
Yep. Speaking great things.
Hey, Stephen Miller went up there. He told you what?
We are
the reason for everything good on the
Yep.
earth. You know,
And we have the best thinkers. We have the best, as far as copyright and what's the other one?
patents.
Copyright
Which
and
they
patent.
stole all that from us.
Man, so let you come out with something great, and he'll claim it before you get a chance to say it's yours. And the blueprint is in your head. So that's Esau for you, brother.
You got that, buddy.
Is that mouth speaking great things? And then it
Mhm.
says, verse 9, and I beheld till the thrones were cast down.
Right, the thrones being cast down as this heathen rule, man, heathen dominion. Because that's what Yahweh Shai is ultimately coming back to do, man. Take these
Many
heathens out of
crowns.
power. Hey, who's the main heathen he's going to take out of power, man? Hey, Esau Edom, man. Grab that 2nd Ezra 6 and verse 7 through verse 9. Our brother can grab me Revelations 19, many crowns upon his head. You know?
Okay.
Gone.
19. You will grab the 19 now?
Yeah, bubble shop, many crowns upon his head.
All right, come on.
Yeah, because it's Daniel 7:9 says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down. Right?
Isaiah 2:2.
Because Yahweh Shai is going to ultimately take down.
Because Esau Edom is the last heathen to rule before
Right.
what? A complete heathen dominion is ultimately done forever, man.
Come on, 1 second. What verse should I start at? Let me see.
Just get to the point. Crowns upon his head.
12.
All right, come on, let's do that. Come on. Revelation 19, verse 12. And his eyes were as a flame of fire, on his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew. But
Right,
he-
yeah.
so-
Yeah. You all good, brother. Yahushua had many crowns upon his head. It's a representation of all these heathen rulerships he's going to take down, man. And Esau Edom being at the forefront of that, man. Because ultimately, what? Esau Edom is at the head of the heathen rule right now, man.
Yeah.
And the Lord is coming back. Yahweh's going to send his son Yahushua back to take these devils out of power, man.
Hey, so Yahushua has all the crowns on his head, man. That's why it says, "Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing?" Because their rulership is, just for this time.
And I got one real quick. This is the book of Isaiah 2 and verse 1. It says, the word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of Yahweh's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow into it. Right. So ultimately, what the nation of Israel, Yahweh's government is going to ultimately be up top of all these other governments, man. You're not going to have heathens in rulership. You're not going to have heathens rule. Hey, that's going to be a thing of the past, man. Esau Edom is the last heathen to rule. Ultimately, what? Before the coming of Yahushua. And Yahushua is coming back to take this devil out of power. Grab me that 2 Ezra 6, start at verse 7 to read through verse 9.
This is 2 Ezra 6, I started verse 7.
Mm-hmm.
Then answered I and said, what shall be the partings asunder of the times? Or when shall be the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth?
Right. So Ezra is asking the angel, I believe that's Uriel, ultimately when is ultimately the end is coming, man. Because a lot of people believe, after the ancient Roman Empire went down, that's when the kingdom of heaven was going to be established.
Right. That's what they asked. They asked the Lord, "Will you at this time restore the kingdom of Israel?"
But it was a second part of the
second leg of the Roman Empire.
The second leg of the Roman Empire. Exactly right, brother. You got it. I saw.
Verse 8, and he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. Verse 9, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth.
Exactly right, man. Hey, Esau Edom is the last heathens to rule, ultimately for the establishment of what? The kingdom of heaven. Yahweh's kingdom, which is going to be an everlasting dominion,
And this is also how you know that the Romans are Edomites.
Yep.
Because that's that fourth beast. That's the final beast. Esau is the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And may they be judged accordingly.
You ever grab that Daniel's second chapter? Talks about Yahweh shot that rock, ultimately striking down the statue.
This is Daniel. This is Daniel chapter 2, which also goes over the same four kingdoms. And it says, verse 44, and in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed.
Mm-hmm. The kingdom of heaven. Yahweh's kingdom.
Yahweh's kingdom. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, like the brother just said.
Hey, yep. The Lord is coming back to bring an end to all heathen dominion, man. Hey, the thrones were cast down. It's written at what's that? Daniel 7 and 9.
But it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
Yep. Hey, Yahweh Shem Yahushai's kingdom is going to be an everlasting kingdom. But we go back to that Daniel 7.
Back in Daniel 7, and we are at verse 9. And I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit.
Right, Yahweh is the Ancient of Days, man. He has no beginning, he has no end.
Whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool.
Right, hey, what's that? Revelations 1 and 14. Hey, Yahweh Shai, his son, got his same characteristics as he do.
Yeah. You have seen me, you have seen the Father.
That's right.
There you go. God.
So it says, his throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire.
Right, talking about the chariot. I want to back that up real quick. This is the book of 2 Kings 2 and verse 11. And it says that it came to pass as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, and parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind, because a chariot is also described as a whirlwind, into heaven. Right, talking about that chariot, man.
The horses of fire.
Mm-hmm.
So here it said his wheels were as a burning fire.
Yep, talking about those chariots, man. What you got, everybody?
A fiery stream issued and came forth from him. Thousands ministered unto him.
Right, talking about the angels.
And 10,000 times 10,000
Hey,
stood before him.
Jeremiah, but have Revelations 5 on deck. Start at verse 1.
Yeah, man. In Psalms 2, it says, the angels of the Lord are
10,000, even thousands of angels.
yeah,
Yep.
even thousands.
Finish out that verse real quick, everybody, and then we'll jump into that Revelations 5.
Yes, sir. This Daniel 7 and 10. And a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him.
Right, the angels.
The judgment was set, and the books were opened.
Right, the judgment was set. Hey, the judgment is already set that this place is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear destruction, man. Hey, so the judgment is already set, and it says what? And the books were opened. What? Which is what? The understanding. And who ultimately, was ultimately worthy to loosen those seals? Hey, Yahweh Shai, man.
That's right.
To give the understanding to his men. To ultimately what? To give us because the scripture says what? It's given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. To them it's not given.
Right.
Read that Revelations 5, brother.
So the Lord had to die for that, for us to get that.
The Holy Spirit.
The captain of our salvation.
That's right.
You said in verse 1.
Revelations 5 and 1.
God. Chapter 5 of Revelations, verse 1. And I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within and on the backside sealed with 7 seals.
So that represents the scriptures, the understanding
That's
of
right.
And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof.
And Yahweh Shai was worthy to do that, man. To ultimately what? To loosen the seals, which is the understanding, man. To ultimately to give it to his men.
Verse 3. And no man in heaven nor in earth, neither under the earth, was able to open the book, neither to look thereon.
That's right.
And I wept much, because no man was found worthy to open to read the book, neither to look thereon. And one of the elders said unto me, Weep not. Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the 7 seals thereof.
Right, that's the understanding. Yahweh Shai, hey, he was worthy to ultimately what? To unloosen the understanding of the scriptures, man. That's why we are able to understand prophecy. That's why we're able to understand, hey, what we're going into right now. Daniel's the 7th chapter, man. To understand what these different things mean, man. And give you the understanding, man. So ultimately, Yahweh Shai was ultimately worthy to loosen the seals up. Right.
Verse 11, I beheld then.
Daniel 7 and 11.
Yes, Daniel 7 and 11. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake.
Right, talking about America's pride, man.
I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame.
Right, because that's ultimately how America is going to be destroyed, man, by thermonuclear destruction. That little horn, America, the second leg of the Roman Empire, the continuation of the 4th beast. That's how ultimately this place is going to be destroyed. That fire, man. Grab I believe it's Revelation 13. The beast shall hate the whore, and somebody grab that
Revelation 13.
Oh man, that's that thermonuclear destruction. That's that
Revelation.
destruction of America.
Revelation 13 and 3. No, it's not 3.
It's not 13, I don't think.
No,
It's not 13. I think it's Revelation 17, if I'm not mistaken.
I was thinking-
17 and 10. Maybe?
Yeah. And shall burn up her body with fire.
That's 16. Revelation 17 and 16.
With fire. I said 13. So
Revelation 17 and 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest unto the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn it with fire.
Right. So America's on our lives. We just talked loosely about the 10 horns and a few verses prior.
Which it mentions the 10 horns.
The 10 horns, yep. So ultimately, America's on allies, and ultimately rival countries is going to shoot their missiles upon America, and this place is going to be a lake of fire. They're going to burn her flesh with fire, man. That's going to be the judgment, as the scripture says. Verse up, it says the judgment was set. In verse up, what that verse 10?
Yeah.
Ultimately, what? That's going to be America's downfall, man. Hey, America is going to be known as that lake of fire, man.
His body destroyed and given to the burning flame.
Which is that lake of fire, which is the second death.
And perfect timing for what you're going through right now. They're testing these high-powered weapons. So if you're testing them, they're not being tested
In vain.
Come on, bro. The water for that.
Verse 12 says, as concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time.
Read that again.
Daniel 7 and 12, as concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season of
Right.
time.
So the beast represents the heathens, the other heathens, man. You know, ultimately what? You know, they're described as beasts, and it says they had their dominion taken away, because ultimately you said what? The Lord is coming back to take down all rule and dominion of the heathens, man.
That's right.
You know, so ultimately what? They're going to be in captivity under the Israelites for a period of 1,000 years. You know, and ultimately they're going to get their lands back eventually, for the exception of Esau Edom, man, who's going to be destroyed. What's that? Obadiah 1:18. You know, Esau Edom is going to be eradicated, but after you know these heathen servants for 1,000 years, they're still going to be under subjection under the Israelites, man.
That's
You
right.
know, we're gonna have full dominion over them. You can read what's that? Revelations I think it's Revelations 3 and verse 25.
I got one too, real quick. Just to show you that the other heathen nations will have their own lands in the kingdom, but the wicked, the nation of Edom, will not. Isaiah 14:18. All the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, everyone in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain thrust through with the sword, that go down to the stones of the pit as carcass trodden under feet. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed the land and slain thy people. The seed of evildoers shall never be renowned.
Right. So ultimately, hey, these heathens are going to serve their 1,000 years of captivity. Even after these heathens serve their 1,000 years of captivity, they're going to have what? You know, they're going to be under subjection under the Israelites.
They're always going to be our
They're
servants.
always going to be our servants, but an exception of Esau Edom, who's going to be eradicated off the earth. I'm back up your point, brother, real quick. This is the book of Revelations 20 and verse 5. It says, but the rest of the dead live not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection, right? Because ultimately what? The dead being these other heathens, man. Ultimately what? They're without the ways of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. They're going to be serving us. They're going to serve that 1,000 years of captivity, but it's going to be eventually what? They're going to get their lands back, for the exception of Esau Edom.
They're going to get to live.
Yep.
You know, they're going to get to live
Righteous.
on perfect earth,
Yep.
under the law, statutes, and commandments.
Yep,
You know,
that's
they're,
right.
they're going to be able to have wives, families. You know,
Beautiful.
something that you cannot have in this devil's kingdom. You know,
That's
realistically.
right. Let me see. Come.
We can let me see, can I actually find this real quick? Revelations 2 and verse I'm gonna start at verse 25. Revelations 2 and 25, it says, but that which ye have already hold fast till I come. It says, and he that overcometh and keepeth my works unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessel of potter shall they be broken to shivers, even I received of my Father. All right, that's what we're going to do. We're going to, rule these nations in righteousness, man. We're going to have complete dominion over them, man. You know.
Hey, it says in I think Isaiah, the nation that will not serve thee will utterly perish.
Yep. Daniel 7.
Daniel 7 and verse 13. And I saw in the night vision, and behold, one like the Son of Man, which is Yahushai, came with the clouds of heaven.
Right, the clouds of heaven, the chariots, the angels.
And came to the Ancient of Days.
Right, the Ancient of Days being Yahweh.
Mm-hmm.
Because Yahweh's going to send his son, Yahushua, back. Because ultimately everything was promised to Yahushua.
Yes.
You know, everything is going to be manifested here on the earth, man. You know, everything is going to be under Yahushua's foot, man.
And you could read that in Psalms 2. It says, I'll give ask me, I'll give the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession.
Yep.
So it says, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him.
Right, yep. You know, Yahweh, the angels brought, Yahushua to Yahweh,
God.
you know.
And there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed.
Right, exactly right, man. Hey, this kingdom is not going to pass away. It's not going to get be given into heathen rule, man. This kingdom is going to be everlasting, man. You know. Let me see. Every tongue shall confess. If a brother can grab that for me, I
got you. Right, that's his head. On his head was many crowns.
Mm-hmm.
Philippians 2 and 10 says,
Yep.
verse 9. Where, right? Because look, it just said, right? He gave to Yahushai glory and dominion and a kingdom, right?
Right,
He gave him
was
everything.
promised to Yahushua, yeah.
Gave him everything. Philippians 2:9. Wherefore Yahweh also hath highly exalted him and given him a name which is above every name,
Yep.
meaning a rank.
Yep.
That at the name of Yahushai, every knee should bow, of things in heaven and things in earth and things under the earth, and that every tongue should confess that Yahushai HaMashiach is Lord, to the glory of Yahweh the Father.
Right. Everybody is going to kneel. You know, everything is going to kneel under Yahushua, man. You know, everything was given to Yahushua. So everything is going to be manifested here on the earth, man. Everything is going to be given to Yahushua, man. You know, going to back what we just read, man. Out the Lord is coming. Yahushua is coming back to what? To take down all heathen rule and dominion, man. You got something?
Come. I got Micah 4:7. But in the last days,
That's one. That's verse 1.
Slacking. Micah 4:7, verse. Yeah,
No,
come.
Micah 4:1.
7.
Yeah, but read verse 1.
Okay, start from verse 1.
Yeah.
Okay. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains.
Right, and the mountains are governments.
Right. Mountains represents big governments. Hills represent smaller governments.
Come. And it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow into it.
Right. As I read in Isaiah the 2nd chapter, man. You know, the Lord, mountain is going to be established above all these different mountains and hills, man. You know.
And many nations shall come and say, come and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord and to the house of Yahweh of Jacob, of the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths, for the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
And he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations from afar off. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore.
Right, because ultimately, after Yahushua comes back and put boot to ass and put everything under his feet, take down Esau, Edom out of power, and bring down all heathen rule and dominion, there's not going to be any more wars anymore. Because ultimately, what the kingdom of heaven is going to be an everlasting kingdom, man. Nobody's what's them IUIC had taught that ultimately when we in the kingdom, man, Russia finna rise up, you know. Hey, that's false doctrine.
Because they misinterpret the Revelation 20 about the 1,000 years.
Yep. But ultimately, hey, this is where we're at right now, man. Yahushua is coming back to bring down all heathen rule and dominion, man. You know, everything is going to be subjugated unto Yahushua, man. You know.
Come
on.
I'll read that verse 18 in Daniel 7 too, because it also talks about that. You know, hey, the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom, possess the kingdom, even forever and ever.
Yeah, this is Daniel 7 and 18 or 17. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. But the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever.
Right. They should, but the saints, who are the saints? The Israelites. You know, beginning with the elect, man. But the saints are the Israelites. We're going to possess the kingdom, you know, even forever and ever, because Yahweh Shai's kingdom is an everlasting dominion, man.
That's right.
You know, Yahweh is going to get his son, Yahweh Shai the kingdom, man, and it's going to be forever, even forever and ever, man. You know, read what's that, verses 15 on down, man. It reinstates what we were just talking about, man. You know, it talks about the four beasts breaking it down and things like that, but yeah, this is what Daniel 7 chapter entails, man. And the last part of that Daniel 7 of the 7th chapter is coming to pass, man. Yahweh Shai is going to, you know, come back to the earth and ultimately take what is his, man. Taking these devils out of power, bringing down all heathen rule and dominion, man. And this is where we're at right now. But that's Daniel's the 7th chapter, you know. So we end off right there. You know, Lord, we hope this lesson was edifying. We end off again all praise on the glory to
Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Rakai Kodash.
That want us to the elders and the apostles of great millstone and taught us the truth. The salutations to the hopeful elect that's around the four corners of the globe. Lord, we hope this lesson was edifying. So next time, Kwam Yasharallah. Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom. Shalom.